Glad you made it. Welcome to the farm. Who's your daddy? I'm your daddy now. I'm here seeking only what I need. In your mind is where I'll plant my seed. It's for sure. Let me keep you in this place. You'll be better off this way. I will keep you warm and safe. You'll be better off this way. You learn to love the price you pay. Trust me, dear, you're better off this way.
Yo, baby. What's up, Eric? What's up, man? What's that? You.
We all get to filming us.
Push me.
What the hell do you think you're doing? I got the salad. Okay. What do you think you're doing? I mean, you think that I
And you are not talking.
Alright, here's what we're going to do. Listen. Friday afternoon, when you're in 202, the flag carriers will be in 201. I will take them out, down the hall upstairs, down to about where the science rooms are, and I'll line them up. Then I'm going to get you guys, I'll take you to get in this line, and I'll line you down the hall. The whole hall will be the flag carriers and you guys. We'll walk down those stairs. I'm going to say this twice. Once today and once Friday. Once you walk through those doors, like the Dean's room and the Phillips room, you can't say a word. Alright, so, today you can clown, but Friday you can't. I'll take this for higher pain. Alright, okay, go ahead. I guess she's going to go about. Okay. Corey, you're going to walk slower than that to the music, honey. Okay. For Snoop kind of you will go about 3 steps way down.
It feels like when you brush it. It's like there's something missing.
And you won't be walking this fast to the music.
Are we each walking like on a road?
Yeah.
No, Julia, because we're not part of the program.
Oh, I forgot to say, I do that a lot too. You walk up, you walk down, make a nice square around, go up and stand in front of your chair, and feel the chair with the back of your legs, but don't sit. Okay. 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 Miss Robert is going to dance down the aisle. Right. Right. Go ahead. Look at me funny. Okay, Mr. Leo, go ahead. Yeah. Well, you get over it. Your mom and dad want to see you. Okay. Your chair behind You're cute. You're going to go the second round, follow Arthur. Okay?
So why this actually is the last.
I'll tell you when. Go.
It's funny, babe. So sharp trooper.
Nice sharp turn. Not military though. More than you. Willie, where are you supposed to be?
Show me a good square.
No, I forgot to send you. Don't worry, because I'm looking at. There you go. Yeah. She can't wear those shoes. Oh, good. Yeah. Oh. Are you gonna be able to handle more to put on top of that cowboy hat? Chris! Guys! Up! Oh, finally you're gone.
Benny!
You gotta tell me. You gotta tell me.
True.
That's my job.
I'll bring those pictures for your mom.
Dr. Hawley never gives me a pay raise. He says, her are the trips to Europe and the all right. When you're about 3/4 of the way. See how great you look? Go. We're coming. Hal, I'm taking my time because I've got a couple of
Yourself all the time.
You didn't see yourself all the time, Janet?
You bring that with you?
That'd be cool, man. Trip. Yeah, I'll let that. Very good. They did a really good job of getting it back.
Ah, my tassels keep going. Oh, hi. Wait for the camera, guys.
Bienvenue, bienvenidos, benvenuti, herzlich willkommen. All who are here who love members of the class of 2001. Today we will graduate our 10th class. We will in fact graduate today 49 students. This year these 49 students represent 21 countries. They have been here perhaps longer than any other class, in as much as nearly 1 in 4 started with us sometime between 4-year-old kindergarten and 1st grade. In fact, making the entire 14-year journey today, we have 3, Claire Williams, Christina Hayes, and Matias Colombo, making the 13-year journey from 5-year-old kindergarten, Chris Branch, Jeremy Hirsch, and Sasha Berkman, and making a journey of 12 years since 1st grade. We have Gerald Blaney, Amber Stokes, Nick Maltavay, and Lisa Locke. So an incredible testimony to both the history of the school, which is in its 16th year, and the history of these students. We will indeed today have the 300th student crossing the stage and receiving a diploma. That person this year will be the oldest person sitting up behind me, in fact, Thomas Lau. Just a piece of data for you to think about. 300 students to come across the stage will be today. Now I'd like to turn our attention briefly to those who are in the audience. In the audience today, and I'd like to ask at least this small group to stand and to be recognized. First of all, a couple of members of the class of 2001 who had to leave for various reasons and go to different parts of the world, but are here today. I think we have at least 2, Christina Brungo and Alexis Schulte is here. We also have many alumni. If I could ask the various alumni to please stand and be recognized. And then finally, 2 other groups that had a profound influence on the class of 2001 in helping them make the journey and to be successful and to go off and do what these students are about to do, and that is the teachers of Atlanta International School. Please let's recognize all of their work. Please rise. I'm going to have the parents be recognized by one of our speakers, one of our students later today. But please let me share with you a warm welcome. If any of you came from behind the school to join us this morning, perhaps one of the things to comment on with this class is to say that the eagle has landed. And all of you will have an opportunity to learn what it is that I'm speaking about when I say the eagle has landed. But let me just say on behalf of all of us at Atlanta International School to the class of 2001, thank you for this eagle that has flown in and I understand will be settling with us here for many, many years. Well, these students themselves are now about ready to take their own journey, a journey that they are unusually well prepared to take. By any measure one chooses to apply, whether it be by privilege of academic exposure, intellectual challenge, to the rigors of the school and the environment and diversity that these students found themselves in, they are ready for a journey themselves. They are ready to be a force of change. They are ready to be a force, as they have been so far, of challenge. And dare I say, they need to be and are well prepared to be a force that puts people in not just comfortable areas, but into areas of great discomfort. I think some of the things that we have learned together over the course of the many years that we have been together here at the school is that sometimes when our assumptions are challenged most profoundly, when honesty rises to the surface, it often does so in very uncomfortable circumstances. And I challenge the class when they are enmixed in conversation that should be about honesty, when it's really about the weather, that they change that conversation and to speak with some profound truths on their journeys. So it is a forceful journey that I wish for the class of 2001. I have given myself recently the job of taking a bit of a journey back, and I would invite you to do the same at some point, and that is to, dare I say, read, and in some cases occasionally reread, the books that were assigned to me in high school and the books that we, in fact, go and assign to the students at Atlanta International School. In fact, I see the teacher smiling who sent me on this journey. Indeed, the first book that I have, in this case, reread, was The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. And I can tell you that as a person in his 40s, these books that you may have cruised through for an exam have some pretty profound truths to them. And this particular book, after having read it, I certainly got a lot more out of it as an adult as I did when I was a student. And so I invite you to journey back into some of these books. But this one in particular, I think, captures these sort of human conundrums that are in our world. And I will, in fact, read a bit from this, and that is these adventures, this journey that you're going to be on. Address some of the most profound human conundrums, those of prejudice, those of class, those of age, and those of color, pitted against the qualities of hope, of courage, and of moral character. And it is that last point of moral character that I hope, more than anything else, that the class of 2001 carries with them and out into their college, university, and their lives. About 5 years ago, when I came to Atlanta International School, I think one or two of you may have heard the story, my daughter reported to me when she was in kindergarten, someone, a friend of hers, 5 years old, asked her, Dad, she said, doesn't your dad have a job? And I guess Sophie said, well, why are you asking me? Her friend said, well, he just hangs around the school all day and he doesn't he have a job? Doesn't he have something to do? He never seems to go to work. And so my journeys indeed are mostly in and around the hallways these days. And interestingly enough, on a recent journey over there to the primary school, I came across something, and in the spirit of brief comments this morning, I'm going to close with these. I thought these were quite fitting, if you will, something I found in this little journey into the primary school. And I asked around the primary school, who wrote these? Where did this come from? It's all laminated, it all looks very nice. And nobody actually knew who wrote them. So with apologies to the author, I think that these are fitting comments to close my welcome and to invite to the stage the students themselves. And since they are brief, I'm going to read them slowly. Think big. Smile. Let people teach you. Open your heart. Remember where you came from and ask others where they came from. Break down barriers. Open your mind. Share. Cry. Challenge ignorance. Tell your friends. Think community. Believe in who you are. Believe in others. Celebrate difference. Live love. Give of yourself. To the class of 2001, I wish you the best of luck. And now we will hear their words, as it is their ceremony, with Christina Hayes and Tess Panzer.
We have all anticipated
a long time, and we know we have a great adventure in front of us. A chance to make it on our own, and a chance to strive for all our dreams and desires. Only recently have we come to realize the price of graduation, which is a separation from our AIS extended family.
I've gone to this school for as long as I can remember, and I can truly say it is my home. The people at this school have become my extended family, and I will always remember them. As this chapter of my life closes, I look back and remember the good times and bad, the old friends and new. Atlanta International School has made an imprint on our lives that will last forever.
We have encountered individuals whom we will never forget, and we ourselves have become individuals.
I made my first friend here in 1987. We first met at the school picnic. Claire and I have been best friends ever since, and grown to be like sisters. I hope all the friends I've made here will be my friends forever.
I remember sitting in the emergency room one night after a rough basketball game. I sat until 1:30 in the morning with one of my best friends waiting anxiously for his lab results to come back. His friends were all there, his friends' parents were all there, and everyone looked out for him as if he were part of their own family. Also, I will always remember high school for our experiences with cars, our little accidents, getting lost in the dark trying to get to basketball games, and driving to park dumpsters the first week of driving. We've all been there, some of us a few more times than others. I remember Gray's birthday. He had invited 25 of his best friends to go to dinner and managed to have a car accident the same day. After having called all of us to cancel, 7 of us showed up at his door at 10 o'clock with a birthday cake, sparkling candles, birthday hats, and singing happy birthday. He said we had made the worst birthday of his life the best one. We are there for each other.
I remember the countless class trips we took to the mountains and the woods. It all started with our first overnight to the zoo. We had fun splashing in the puddles and seeing how the zookeepers made all the food. Then we went to see the koalas in the reptile house at night. At the end of our busy day, we all went to sleep to the sound of nocturnal monkeys and other creatures, and the sound of the guys sneaking off to the bathroom to have a secret meeting. The next morning, we woke up for an early breakfast and watched videos about some of the animals in the zoo, in the rainforest, the tropical rainforest.
I remember one night driving to Phipps Plaza with my friends, parking directly in front of the entrance. We turned up Vanilla Ice and MC Hammer and began breakdancing in the dark in front of the mall. It's wonderful that we can all be ourselves at this school, let loose and act a little crazy sometimes. Those times have become great memories. I remember Gerald's offbeat sense of humor and his quiet strength, Anne's vibrancy and her ability to make everyone around her happy and love her, Drew's laughter, the stories told by Paul and Chris about deer hunting, and all the other individuals in our class who have made our lives as colorful as they are. Like the seniors who established the new Model United Nations tradition, taking a midnight swim in the cold North Sea. We'd like to thank all the teachers who go the extra mile to be our friends and mentors. The teachers I've had at this school have put so much energy into me and my classmates.
They have done everything possible to make the IB easier, including taking class time to have some fun, and being incredibly understanding when all the deadlines would come.
I remember having a major project due at the theater the next day, and Sherry and Rob wrote out directions to their house for the theater class. They told us if we just needed to come and work at their house, if we just needed someone to be there, that we were welcome to come, brew some coffee, and stay. Countless teachers in this community have given all they have to us to make this process as painless as possible.
We also like to thank all the teachers in primary and middle school who helped us and had patience. They made learning fun and gave us the strong foundation we needed for the IB. It's so great to see and talk to my kindergarten teachers who still remember us and care about us and have tracked our progress from the beginning.
I remember speaking to the new teachers at the beginning of the 12th grade, and I was asked to advise to them on how to be a good teacher at AIS. I told them that the relationships between student and teacher are essential to the essence of the AIS experience, and that was what AIS teachers have achieved. The new teachers have certainly become a part of our family.
We also have to thank all the staff in the offices and the IT department that we don't see every day, but who keep the school running.
And the maintenance and cafeteria staff members who work behind the scenes, who make sure
sure we can go on functioning every day and care about us as though they were our own family. Thank you to all of you. To our parents, you have been our strongest advocates, our greatest supporters. You have sacrificed for us, you have rooted for us, and you have been there for us.
You have always been there through our weakest moments and given us the support we needed to get through when we knew we wouldn't make it. You've picked us up along the way and listened to our problems, no matter how small and trivial.
For all of this, we thank you.
Like all good things, our high school days must also come to an end. It's funny. I can remember wishing and hoping this day would come as fast as it could. But now that it's here, I wish we could have more time together. I don't think I ever realized this is our last day of class.
I remember one night in the 11th grade when I realized I was to graduate next year. All of a sudden it hit me like a brick wall. I wouldn't be able to go to school every day and see my best friends. I was so upset. I called Lou and Vito on the phone, crying, telling them how much they meant to me as friends, just to make sure they knew. I remember Vito. There was a long pause and then, "Are you being serious?"
We will always remember the good times we've had. I always knew I would one day look back on my tears and laugh, but I never knew I would look back on my laughter and cry.
As we leave this school, we take with us our memories and our friendships. Hopefully we will not leave our family behind, but always carry it with us in our hearts and in our memories. Thank you.
We have been told that the purpose of our education is to mold us into good citizens. But of course, we have to put this into a certain perspective. Whereas there's certainly some very good schools in Atlanta that view as their principal goal the creation of good future citizens of Atlanta or of Georgia in general, Atlanta International School has proven to have as its objective to form good citizens of the world. From here today, after having shared a wonderfully rich set of experiences with one another, we will now go out into the world in our own direction to have different experiences, live in different places, partake of new friendships, and undertake new activities. There's no doubt that each of us will develop and evolve in new and interesting ways. But the core that has been created and nurtured by our experiences at AIS will remain a vivid, living, essential, and critical part of our persona as we go forward. AIS has offered so many opportunities that have helped our class to become the vibrant group of individuals that we are. Aside from the strength of language classes at AIS, which have been a focal point of my education here, AIS also stimulates students to seek and grow from significant experiences outside the classroom. Community service may not be a requirement at some other schools, but at AIS, it has become much more than a mere requirement. It has really become an integral part of our lives, and many of us eagerly and willingly seek out opportunities to involve ourselves in meaningful service to the community. Let me highlight some of my own personal experiences to illustrate this. One example is theater, which has always been an interest of mine. In the course of the various theatrical projects that I was involved in, I came into contact not only with professional actors, but also with players with developmental disabilities through our involvement in the Habima program. These were people, young and not so young, who were struggling to master some of the basic skills that we often take for granted, such as simply getting ready in the morning. They showed the courage and determination to undertake a project that many less challenged individuals would not even begin to consider. Not only were my abilities as an actress improved, but I also learned to work with and relate to others who face greater challenges than most of us do in the course of everyday living. Working with this group of individuals, I was not acting for myself, but rather helping them master the self-confidence on stage that many of AIS students had already attained in the theater. I never thought that I would have an interest in sports, but recently AIS has allowed me to step outside my milieu and undertake new activities. This is another of the rich experiences I've had at AIS. Simply being on a soccer team, even though I may not have as much practice as other players, has made me see that the satisfaction can be found in more places than just on stage or in the classroom. The program welcomes even beginners, like myself, but puts one completely at ease and comfortable in an activity with which one may not be totally familiar. And I even scored a goal. As one of the key and unique aspects of the AIS experience, many students take organized trips overseas during the school year or during the summer with the purpose of improving their language skills and familiarity with and appreciation of other cultures. Some of my classmates were fortunate to spend part of last summer in an exchange in Spain, whereas others chose to improve their German skills by spending a couple of weeks in Germany. Many AIS teachers went out of their way to facilitate these programs and were very flexible in enabling the students to further their education in this way. I also want to mention a very visible and important option open to students at AIS. For the past several years, Mr. Bennett, Ms. Furco, and Mr. Rosenberg have made it possible for AIS students to participate in the Model United Nations. In this program, the students from each participating school take on the role of a real UN diplomat and represent the delegation of a particular country. These events take place in various countries around the world, and our school participates in programs in The Hague, Netherlands, Caracas, Venezuela, Dublin, Ireland, and the local program at Georgia State University. Students return from the programs with a greater knowledge of diplomatic relations among countries, better public speaking skills, a sense of working together with students in different grade levels, and often new friendships with students living in entirely different parts of the world. Obviously, the activities to which I have referred to are just a few of the many available to AIS students. The common thread of these opportunities is that students are actively encouraged to learn more, not simply from just a textbook, but from interaction in activities that incorporate skills that can be acquired only from hands-on experience. And to whom do the 49 members of the class of 2001 owe a big thank you for all these opportunities? Well, of course, an inspiring faculty and staff. Secondly, our parents, without whom none of us would be here today. And I mean that literally. Thanks to all our moms and dads. Would the parents of the class of 2001 please rise? The opportunities provided to us at Atlanta International School will undoubtedly have a lasting impact on all of us. I hope that we will have left a legacy of spirit and involvement for the classes to come.
Here in front of you, you have a unique group of young adults, many of whom cannot wait to leave home, family, and AIS this fall to go to colleges in other cities, other states, and maybe even in other countries. We feel as though we are ready to be on our own, ready to lead our lives separately from our families and independently of this school community. Since not all of you in this room may agree with our feelings of maturity and independence, I would like to explain from where I draw this notion of certainty that we are ready to take on the world, ready to face challenges, and ready to master the stages of life in which we will find ourselves over the next few years. I believe that everything that our school, Atlanta International School, has exposed us to has provided us with almost all of the necessary tools that we will need to become successful at whatever it may be that we choose to do from here on. While we were here in this building, in these classrooms, we were given the opportunity to interact with individuals from all over the world. By doing so, we have learned about other cultures, religions, beliefs, and languages. AIS also exposed us to a large variety of subjects and topics, and to fruitful discussion and debate in a vibrant environment of peers and teachers. This environment, combined with a set of goals and values stated in the school's mission, allowed for the development of a wide range of skills and attitudes, many of which we may remain unaware of until we have left these walls and this community. As students, we may often have thought that we were not being given enough freedom in school when it came to issues such as the dress code or out-of-classroom behavior. However, this too proved to be productive, because we were challenged to think about what we really wanted, what we truly valued. We were continuously challenged to take a stand on an issue, and were not allowed to wander through our years at AIS indifferently. When we had heated discussions about affirmative action or class difference, we learned not only of facts and figures, but what we also learned was to speak up, to express ourselves clearly, to stand up for our beliefs, and to treat confrontation and disagreement respectfully. Our theory of knowledge classes, also known as TOK, raised our discussions to a new level. We began to examine things from many different points of view, and came to realize that there isn't always a definitive answer to every question. Instead, we began to understand and appreciate all of the gray areas of our lives. Finishing our extended essays and TOK papers on time put much pressure on each and every one of us. In order to finish them and to do them well, many of us worked long hours on evenings and weekends too. Preparing for formal orals and finally the IB exams, which many of us finished only 48 hours ago, required expertise in our various subject areas, as well as stamina and discipline. This same endurance, this discipline, and this stamina are certainly the pillars of success in any professional career. As much as we learned inside AIS classrooms, we learned just as many values and skills by participating in various activities outside the classroom. Creativity Action Service Hours, also known as CAS, was one of these activities. Even though this requirement of the International Baccalaureate program gave us the opportunity to experience the rewarding feeling of helping others, it still seemed like a burden at times. This was because it often exposed us to new environments and situations in which we felt uncomfortable and insecure. However, being exposed to difficult circumstances put into perspective not only the privilege of being an integrated part of our family and our community, but also the value of having received an AIS education. Annual class field trips provided another learning ground outside of AIS. Although we may have thought that our 8th grade camping trip somewhere in the North Carolina side was just about the least productive thing that we ever did, sleeping in unfinished cabins complete with bird nests and mouse traps actually did have its benefits. It tested our flexibility and our ability to adapt to new environments. When we had to participate in 8th grade type of group activities this fall on our senior retreat, many of us thought we were too old to do so. However, we were reminded of the value and importance of team building and team effort. To achieve a common goal, we put our differences behind us and came together as a strong and determined group. At this very moment, you are looking at this group of extraordinary individuals who have learned to express themselves clearly, to stand up for their beliefs, treat confrontation and disagreement respectfully. Each individual on this stage is strong, flexible, has internalized human values, is able to adapt to new environments, and is able to work as an individual and as part of a group. This group of young adults has experienced the feeling of giving and has expertise and endurance as well as stamina and discipline. On top of all of this, Atlanta International School has instilled in us the appreciation of diversity, knowledge, and critical thinking. Take a closer look before this group leaves, because you can never know where you will see us next. Maybe on TV, in the news, on the covers of Time, Newsweek, or the Rolling Stone, or at one of your future board meetings, because it is this to which Atlanta International School has opened the door. A world of almost limitless opportunities for a group of young adults who are ready and able to seize those chances. Thank you.
Dr. Hawley, Mr. Theodore, and members of the Board of Trustees, it is my pleasure to present to you the candidates for graduation from the Atlanta International School and to certify they have met the requirements for Valerie Rockman. Juliette Monchau. Gina Rose Breddy. Chantal Lee Day. Irene Olisameka. Corey Lynn Frey. Ellen Maria Basilius. David Thomas Dubert. Dudan Yegenaglu. Ariel Daniels Garber. Claire Williams. Christina Hayes. Montevey. Chenway Francisca Olisameka. Nathan Hovey. Megan Elizabeth Lenz. Arthur Angel Liao. Guillermo Christian Arenas. Charles George Karsten. Lisa Francisca Bach. Miller Fern Kopechnik. Oladipupo Popula. Kirsten Gensch. Matias Federico Colombo. Johanna Maria Fleisch. Jeremy Marshall Hirsch. Alexandra Charlotte Sylvia Berkman. Layla Alexandra Rubin. Kristen Amber Stokes. Some things never change. David Gabriel Ruckel. Christopher Alexander Delamonte. John Karsten Moran. Paul Louis Ziegler. Jordan Lemois. Gerald Blaney III. Adrian Charles. Anna Teresa Tess Hansen. Laura Ann Parker. Lisa Herbertsmeyer. Andrew Paul McCaskill. Thomas Lau. Colin Gray Campbell. Christopher Nikolai Brandt. It is my pleasure to present the 10th graduating class of the Atlanta International School, the class of 2001. You may turn your tassels.
I would like to start by reading you, the graduating class of 2001, a poem by Dylan Thomas. This poem is called Do Not Go Gentle Into That Good Night, and it has meant a lot to me since I first read it a year and a half ago. Do not go gentle into that good night. Old age should burn and rave at close of day. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. The wise men at their end, no dark is right. Because their words had forked no lightning, they do not go gentle into that good night. Good men, the last wave by, crying how bright their frail deeds might have danced in a green bay. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. Wild men who caught and sang the sun in flight, and learned too late they grieved it on its way. Do not go gentle into that good night. Brave men near death, who see with blinding sight, blind eyes could blaze like meteors and be gay. Rage, rage against the dying of the night. And you, my father, there on that sad height, curse, bless me now with your fierce tears, I pray. Do not go gentle into that good night. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. Can you hear the passion in this poem? There is a resounding call to rage. Rage against the dying of the light. Thomas begs his father to fight against his own death, but at the same time, he begs the reader to live a life of passion, a life that rages as the good things of this world pass. To me, that is the most important idea that I've ever come across. Love passionately. Fight passionately for what you believe in. Speak passionately about things important to you. Be full of rage if the situation merits it. It is only through living a life of passion that one can begin to understand oneself. It is by finding out what you are passionate about and feeding that flame until it lights your life that you can truly live. Those who live a lackluster, passionless life often have their decisions made for them, and, I am sad to say, often go quite gently into that good night. You must care. I hope that I'm getting through to you, past the cynicism that fills so many of us. What I want is for each and every one of us to go down in flames, if we're to believe Mr. Rosenberg. Ideologues always go down in flames, he says. I say, I want you to burn, and I myself want to burn. That sounds harsh, but I'm very passionate about this. It's when people start to care and start to really stick up for what they believe that society begins to have a conscience. When people refuse to act passionately on their beliefs and principles, the consequences can be ghastly. There is the obvious and recent example of the Holocaust. Nobody spoke up. By the time they had finished not speaking up for the Jews, there was no one left to speak up for them. That is what happens when people don't speak, when people don't care. What happens when people care? Landmine fields get cleared. Empires fall. Children are kept from the field of battle. The hungry are fed. The homeless housed. This is idealistic beyond belief. I mean, what am I expecting us to do? Change the world? Why not? Do we have such a low opinion of ourselves that we don't think we can have an effect on things? Do we plan to have successful careers in business, law, medicine, the arts, yet feel that we can't have a successful career in making a business? In changing, in making a difference? Of course not. I assure you that each and every one of us will have a chance to make a difference. We must care. We must love. We must find meaning. And we will find joy. Life won't always be happy or joyful. But if we live it with all of our hearts, it will have meaning, which brings its own joy. That is what I want for each of us. I want for each of us to build a life that is meaningful in our own eyes.
no one else in there. After this silent communication, the man stands quietly for a few minutes. He takes a few steps back towards the garden and picks up a rose petal that has fallen. Then he approaches the functionary and puts the petal in the bowl of water. The bowl does not overflow. The functionary looks at the bowl he's holding in his hand with awe. Then, by opening the door and bending down, he expresses that like the rose petal in the bowl of water, the man is welcome. Philosophers say that an organism's actions are dictated by that organism's purpose. According to this theory, our actions should reflect that we are doing things, hopefully, with the best intention possible for a human. To educate is a human thing to do. To teach, to love, to respect others, and to tolerate their mistakes are human things to do. And to create peace is a human thing to do. But for some reason, although humans have lived on Earth for the past 2 million years, societal culture has not been able to teach the new generations their highest purpose and of existence. Maybe we, this generation, and especially those of us on stage, will be able to reach those highest goals because of the education we've had at the school and because of the total experience which can enable us to teach the new generation to live together as a part of the same universe and to stop referring to one another as you or me, white or black, Christian or Muslim, my country or your country. Borders exist today because of this you and me distinction, as do guns and wars. Nuclear bombs exist because of this you and me distinction. Prejudice and discrimination, selfishness, hatred, and anger are present today because of this you and me distinction. If we could, however, say we are one, none of these evils would exist. In a place where this type of discrimination still happens, people talk to one another's fears. At this school, we have received an exceptional education and an exceptional experience. Years in which we have learned to see commonalities and appreciate and respect, even enjoy differences. Maybe today our roads are taking us in different directions. And maybe there will be times when we feel alone. But if we refuse to allow society to trim this training, education, and thinking, this appreciation for differences, as well as commonality, and if we can live with the impression that we can think, want, and do anything, then I'm sure that our children's children, or maybe their children, will live in accordance and harmony, knowing the highest purpose of their existence. Moreover, they will refer to themselves as we. The only war that must be fought by individuals today is the war to stay out of the prison in which too many of today's adults find themselves. People who can't escape their own suspicions and fears. People who can't see into the heart and soul of others. These are people who drag us from what we, as AIS graduates, have learned to be a basic truth in life, that we must open our hearts to the commonalities between us if the world is to survive. We must not be individuals who, without having been good teachers, act as if we were. Who, without having cared for the future of the public, act as if we were good governors. Who, without having made good decisions that affect society in a good way, act as if we were good politicians and caring neighbors. Who, soon without having thought of the future, as it will be for our grandchildren. Act as if we have been good parents for our own children. I wish every single one of us strength and luck in this war against the world that often seems to change us day and night. We must fight in order to reach our highest potential as individuals of significance. Furthermore, I pray that we are welcome everywhere we go, like a rose petal in the bowl of water. Thank you.
I recently had the occasion to work with a young lawyer at my firm for the first time. I quickly became very impressed with him, his work, and his attitude. I was so impressed that I spent some time thinking about him and what it was that made him so good. One day, I overheard him coaching a lawyer just out of law school about how to approach a particularly mundane task. He said to the new lawyer, "You've got to remember that everything you do matters." Then I understood. I understood not only what made my colleague so good at his job, I understood something much more fundamental, and I want to try to pass that along to you, the class of 2001. Your reputation, your career, your life, success in those things is not bestowed on you all at once. It is built bit by bit through a lifetime of approaching mundane tasks with the attitude that everything I do matters. Everything you do matters to you. It matters to your classmates. It matters to your family. It matters to your community. The thing that impresses me about this school is that there is a clear understanding of the values that are important. We hold the following values dear: respect for one another, commitment to purposeful effort, integrity, and optimism. What I'm talking about here is commitment to purposeful effort. That's another way of saying that everything I do matters. It's a statement that I'm serious about who I am, what I stand for, and what I want to achieve. The school's values matter. Make them the roadmap for your journey that you are starting today. Use them as you build, bit by bit, on the success you have achieved here. I stand here with the greatest respect for the class of 2001, its people, and its accomplishments. I'm convinced that there is no finer group of people graduating from any tougher program. I'm amazed at your commitment to academic achievement and to improvement of our world. Your success here indicates that you have the tickets to excel in whatever you attempt next. I'm very confident that you will do so. Good luck, and God bless you.
Cigarettes and trying to buy some